Give me a bite. Give me a bite. Give me a bite of that. Give me a bite of that. Give me a bite of that. Give me a piece of that. I love a piece of that. Bite-sized Thursday.
Welcome, one and all. Welcome to Thursdays, our bite-sized show. And oh, boys, we're getting into a very interesting month today, ladies and gentlemen. It is June, and one of the members of our team is born in this month.
Well, that be?
He was born back in the year of 1900. Now, Jared, he was born in the 1900s. Jared, this is your birth month.
Yes!
Woo! Happy birthday! Now, because he is a man of old-fashioned things, we have called this month, are you guys ready for it? Are you ready for it? Geriatric Month! Oh, boy. All right. Jared, I am dying to know, what is your first pick you have in store?
Well, to explain how this works, each week of June, or Geriatric Month, will be a sitcom from last millennium, the last century.
In the 1900s, yeah.
Yeah, the 1900s, and each week will be a different show from a different decade. So we're starting in the 50s and we'll end in the 90s, because we've watched a lot of 2000s and 2010 shows, sitcoms already. So I thought, hey, that'd be a cool idea to go one at a time. I believe a friend helped me come up with that idea.
Okay, all right.
So he's probably listening. He's probably like, yeah, I told you that. And I'm like, yeah, give him credit. Give me crap about it.
Thank you for whoever helped Jared out with that. Okay, I realize now who that friend was.
No,
it wasn't me.
Oh, I thought you were looking at me like it was you.
No, but you know who it is.
I do, actually.
But anyway, we're starting in the 1950s with one of the very first giant sitcom phenomenons, and it's right here in this case. I Love Lucy.
Ooh, a classic.
Yeah, we just had that movie come out last year, Being the Ricardos, which was okay.
I never saw that.
Good acting, that's about it.
I'll say I heard
Sorkin.
all
the Sorkinism.
Sorkin.
And then Amy Poehler directed a documentary about the two of them that came out this year, and it's all right.
Okay.
It's well put together. It's well put together. It's one of those things where if you're an I Love Lucy fan, you know all this already. I'm not a giant fan, because my brother is a massive fan. But from what I've seen, because he would watch the episodes nonstop when we were living together growing up, so I've seen a lot, or at least the first 3 or 4 seasons, and some of the later seasons.
Okay.
Because that's what he owned at the time. He now owns all of them. But I decided to buy season 1 so we could watch the episode Breaking the Lease.
Ooh.
And this is an episode where, as many of their formulas are, it's a team up. It's two sides fighting. Sometimes it's the girls against the guys. Sometimes it's the odds pair up, like Lucy and Fred team up against Ethel and Ricky. Mm-hmm. But this one is another one they do a lot, is the couples. It's couple against couple, where the Ricardos and the Mertzes are fighting just over. It's one of those things where, I can see where this would start. It's just something stupid and it balloons, snowballs.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to the point where they want to leave, but they can't because they signed a lease. So they do everything in their power to annoy their way out of their lease.
Okay.
So it's one of those. There's a lot of versus episodes in the show, at least in the early shows, and it's one of them. I just remember laughing really hard. I haven't seen this in 7 or 8 years, probably, maybe longer, but
I don't think I've ever seen an episode.
Oh. You understand the basic plot. It's
kind of.
That's actually kind of hard to. That's impressive, actually.
Yeah,
it's just all over.
I've seen clips and bits.
It's
but never a full episode.
But it is the original sitcom.
Yeah, it is
there were sitcoms before it, but this is the first massive one that everyone watched. Big ratings. Again, it's a phenomenon. She became a household name.
Oh, absolutely.
And everyone's told she's one of the most influential comedians of all time. She's one of the funniest people ever. So funny, physically and just acting like. She has everything you need for a great performance. And the basic plot of the sitcom is her husband's a nightclub singer, because Desi Arnaz, her real husband at the time, was a singer first and an actor, and they wanted to work together. So they basically started Desi Lou Studios, and that's how they worked together, because they were always separated. So to work together and actually like be a couple into the show, and he's a nightclub singer. Lucy is, the stay-at-home wife who wants to break into show business but can't because she's bad at it. But there are episodes where she's proven she's actually good at certain things. And their older counterpart couple are the Mertzes, Fred and Ethel, who are their landlords. So things change. They change apartments. They change places they live. The later seasons, it's hour-long episodes.
Oh wow!
But it was shorter, just because they were more like specials. But that's like season 7, 8, 9 or something.
How many seasons of this are there really quick?
I think there's 9.
Dang.
But the last 3 again are less episodes. But at least the first 7 or 6 or whatever I said are this format. Again, there's 35 episodes in this season. But we gotta get going. Just keep talking.
All right. So without any further ado, then let's
take a bite.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After that quick edit, we just watched this episode of I Love Lucy.
Breaking the Leafs.
Breaking the Leafs. This is the first ever episode I've seen of this show.
And what did you think?
It was all right. It didn't really make me laugh all that much, actually. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the age, if it was just the different... just like, because I know obviously the acting is different back then than it is now. It didn't really do it all that much for me. I don't know. I was expecting, because in my mind, this is a groundbreaking. Well, not in my mind. This is a groundbreaking show. This is the first big sitcom. This is what set sitcoms and comedies off for years to come. This did a marvelous job setting up everybody else, but it just didn't do it for me. Maybe it was just this episode. Maybe
there's a lot to choose from.
Part of the thing is maybe in the back of my mind I'm thinking this is the show that started everything. So I had it really built up in my head, and that's my own head playing tricks on me as to why it didn't really land all that much. But that's kind of how I wasn't. I actually wasn't that big thrilled of it, actually.
Gotcha. Jake, you had not seen this episode before. What are your thoughts?
It's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, you do this thing where you don't react a lot during, but then after that you're like, oh, that was really funny, or you're like, that was good. I'm like, oh, I couldn't tell because you weren't doing anything.
I think that happens to me when I watch things for the first time, just because I'm so focused on
that makes
watching it.
sense. You don't want to just cover up any of the.
But you can tell that it's set a mold for sitcoms.
Oh.
You can tell that it was a boundary pusher for its time.
The beds, once they pushed the beds together, no one was showing that stuff on TV.
Oh, and how many shows had females in the lead like that too?
Yeah.
And
Desi Arnaz is Cuban, and how many big Cuban stars did you see? And the documentary points out there was a stereotypes for Cubans at the time being, if I'm remembering right, the over-the-top comedic relief for a serious movie, and then you have Ricky, to most people, is cool because he's the cool showbiz guy, and he's the big band leader singer. So
yeah, he's not the comedy force of the show.
No,
interesting.
But he has his good bits in there.
I will say, really quick, I had no clue that she was married to someone who was Cuban. I just thought I Love Lucy was just your standard all-white family growing up in the 50s. I did not.
That's probably the fault of the black and white.
It absolutely is. But I said, I didn't know.
So he started talking, you're like, oh, that's an accent.
Well, because in the back of my mind, again, I also knew that Javier Bardem played him, and so
but he's not Cuban. I think he's from Spain.
But
again, it's not a great casting. He's
No,
good in the movie, but he's too.
got too much. You said it best. He's got too much gravitas. He's got
a
too much
deeper
in
voice,
his
whereas
voice.
Desi has a more nasally voice, at least on the show.
And he was great in the show. Like I can tell, they all fit their character mold very well. They
Did you hear the movie tell it? They all hated each other.
Oh, really?
Well, the husband and wife didn't hate each other, but there was a lot of off-screen tension, at least later in development for the show, for many reasons.
Okay.
But Fred and Ethel hated each other.
Interesting.
Hated each other.
And
It adds to it.
they were regulars on the show, right? Like they were like.
Oh, yeah, those are the 4 regulars.
There are 4 regulars.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if it was just.
Yeah, Fred and Ethel are in just about every episode.
Okay, that's why. For some reason, I thought it was just Lucy and Desi that were in.
Yeah, they're in every episode. It's just those 4 are all just about always in it.
Gotcha.
Fred and Ethel, I think there are times where they're not, where it's a more Lucy and Ricky episode, but Fred and Ethel are in the majority of episodes.
To be fair, ridiculous, like, as far as you said with the accent, like, it, because of the audio at the time, it just sounds like the kind of peaky, like he's just loud.
Yeah.
Now that
I wonder who else is peaky and loud.
That's why he relates to it.
I can't think of anybody else that's that loud all the time. Who is that loud all the time?
Who is that loud, you guys?
Watching it this time, years after the fact and just, re-examining it,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot more leisurely paced, and there's something comforting about that.
It's
Because
so
everything
loud.
these days is so fast, and it's joke a minute, and there's actual, like, character and story moments. It's nothing outstanding in terms of, it's a comfort show. And it's just watching these 4 people interact, and, like, them in bed saying, like, well, someone better go fix that.
That is a very
And
relatable
I don't have
moment.
the perspective. But I'm guessing that's something that's like, well, so one of us better go fix that. Oh, yeah, one of us should. Let's both get up.
Yeah, and so he's like, yeah, no, that was a very, very relatable moment.
The moment of the dripping and then Ricky loses it and just goes in yelling and screaming, I can't take it! Killed me the first time. I was laughing still. And when he's banging on the pipe, the phones are, it's just chaotic, and then you just hear,
Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
and
that
then there's that, then they're like, what are you doing up there? Just the yelling back and forth. And if you can't tell, Fred is like the prototype for the grumpy old man trope in sitcoms. Like there are moments where it's straight up like, yeah, that's what Frank Barone does. Or like maybe a bit of Red Foreman here and there. Or just those are like Jerry Stiller in King of Queens. Like those type characters. It's Fred.
I could
Like
absolutely
one
see that.
of my favorite Fred quotes is like saying things that are scary or something, and he goes, "Rice is scary." Well, it was thrown at me on the darkest day of my life.
Jesus.
It's just so fun. Another great episode where it's a versus. It's the men against the women where the men say, "Oh, you women are gossiping all the time." So then they like dare each other not to gossip, and then they all end up like. Then the women realize because they trick them. It's like the men trick the women into gossiping, but then they say, "Well, in order to do that, you guys were gossiping,"
Yeah.
and they end up losing. They do that a lot where they'll pull the rug out and someone wins, and then the other side will win because something else. It's just classic sitcom writing, and it works so well.
What's interesting is it's a lot simpler.
Oh yeah,
Like, it's a lot less exhausting than a lot of shows to watch that we watch today because every show has to have some sort of gimmick or some sort of mystery that hooks you into the next one. But this is just kind of...
so we don't leave the apartment really, except for those shots in the merch apartment
Kind of
downstairs.
on top of that, with what you were saying, like I feel like now I'm used to like A plots and B plots and sometimes even
The
C plots. Like, I
overcomplicated
feel like there's like
complication of
usually there's multiple things going on at once.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And this is just
the people that make Friends talk about that all the time. There's typically, obviously, 3 storylines in an episode of Friends.
Yeah.
Each friend has a pair, and they go on an adventure. They have an issue, or they have a fight, or whatever it is. But like, yeah, I can take that a lot better than I can take like every show needing to be lost.
or every show throwing a million jokes in your face and hoping one lands. This, there's not a ton of jokes.
No,
It's
yeah.
the character interactions with a few jokes in there, whereas now it's bombarding you because
like
the faster the better, and if we can throw 30 jokes at you, hopefully a couple will stick and you'll watch again.
you know, what I think that is. I think now, because like back in the day, like this was like what one of the I'm not sure. This correct me if I'm
It's gotta be
wrong.
like 52 or 53.
Is this one of the first shows that came out when it comes to just like entertainment in general? Like where like I feel like there weren't like
There were shows before it.
right, but like were there like comedy shows, were there drama shows, were there horror shows, were there
Yeah,
like
there
very
were shows.
specific different genres?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there were different types of shows, and I don't know if sitcom was a term then for sure, but I know it was a comedy, and they had ones before, and a lot of it stemmed from radio. This came from radio.
Right.
It was called My Favorite Husband, I believe, and she was on there, and she's really funny, and they're like, hey, she does great physical comedy, let's make the show, but then she wrote Desi into it because they wanted to work together.
Interesting.
So radio was very big then, because not everyone had a TV set.
Right, I knew
But
that.
by this time, everyone's starting to get them because everyone can actually afford them now.
Mm-hmm.
It's the post-war boom still, so people have jobs and are working and have getting money. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why this was the first big one. There were other shows around the time, but a lot of people attribute this as the first true sitcom.
Yeah. I just wonder if now if there's just like more things out there, so you have to be more punchier. You have to be more.
Well, our attention spans are shorter.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
lot shorter.
Which is why I feel like having like more storylines, that kind of stuff, just to keep our attention is necessary. Rather than when this came out, they could just spend the time because you
It
didn't
did
have much.
feel a lot longer than I think the probably 30 minutes that it was.
Mhm.
It's because we don't have a million storylines at once.
And we don't have to watch it with ads. And I'm guessing,
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing there weren't as many ads.
Probably.
Got two breaks.
Probably.
What's
I
that?
think there are 2 breaks.
2.
2 or
There's
3.
only one indicated by the show.
Yeah, maybe something like
Maybe
that.
one after the end of the episode before the credits.
Yeah, well, there probably are ads at before and after. So, but yeah, the ads were different too. Yeah, we also watched it without the animated interludes because I think those were added in retroactively. So I think that was the original or something like that, or the original had. It's one or the other. Like one of them, they're animated segments.
Oh.
That's like 10 seconds. It's a transition, and then some don't. That's above me.
Interesting. I thank you for enlightening me on all of this stuff. Because I didn't.
It's just a breath of fresh air. Because I feel like every show I watch, I'll watch comedy shows that could be funny, but I'm just exhausted. And then this you can have on in the background.
I can feel the comfort, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's not the best episode. That was just the first one. I'm like, oh, I loved this episode.
Mm-hmm.
To break a lease, he brings his band in there and just plays until they give up. That doesn't happen like that.
It's
Now,
pretty
I don't
fun.
know about them, but it's just funny.
It's pretty ridiculous.
The shot of Fred with the chandelier on his head is just that'd knock him out. But man, is it such a funny thing to see? They just look dead inside.
It was good. All right, so that is our episode of this bite-sized meeting. Jared, where can the good folks that are listening to us find us?
Oh yeah! You see, I Love Lucy is a comedy show, and it's a kind of comedy, but in smaller bits and a lot faster. We have a pretty funny thing on the TikTok, and you should go there.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
We gonna do this again?
Yeah, you started this. Not my spiel, your spiel.
Oh my! Oh, it's a spiel now. Hey, you at home? Did you hear? We have a TikTok. It's pretty funny. Right?
Yeah,
It's pretty funny, right? Nikki?
yeah.
Like pretty
I think.
But when you're,
I think it is.
pretty funny.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to do that metal.
Oh, I got a very different idea from that. But okay.
I shut up. I'm crippled.
when you're done with the funny TikTok, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and the Instagram. And hey, guess what? You want to keep listening to us and follow along as our Geriatric Month continues. You can watch here on YouTube if you're watching the video. I realize I just said that. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you want.
Yeah.
And also, you can listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, the Overlord Apple Podcast, and the Google Podcast. Did I say them all, Dickie?
Did you say Stitcher?
Stitcher!
Yeah. Anyway, wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find us as well. And don't forget, We're always here on Thursdays and Tuesdays and always put out new stuff. So thank you, everybody, for listening to us.
Next week, we have a show from the 60s. That's just, we'll go one at a time. So this is the 50s, next week's the 60s.
Now, I'm guessing after the 70s?
I mean, I thought you were going to say the 80s, and I was going to say Dickie Math.
I did it! All right, we're all on Offsite Media. Thank you for listening. And until the next time,
Take a bite.
Bite me off a piece of that. Bite-sized Thursday!